On this week's FPL Happy Hour,
We'll then look at our two hot topics. The first one chosen by the Twitter public, and that was big at the back. For those that didn't spot it, go and look at the emoji that I used. I was pretty proud of that myself.
The emoji. Is that
emoji?
Is that the posh way
Is
of
it
saying
emoji?
Yeah.
Is it emoji.
The emoji.
Go and have a look at it. Go and have a look at the emoji that I use. I was like, yeah, this is quite good. Hello and welcome to FPL Happy Hour, episode 17 of season 3, with myself, Sham, otherwise known as FPL 2 Guys 1 Cup on Twitter.
And myself, Rob, otherwise known as FPL Panda.
Rob, how are you, mate?
All good. Well, it's been a disappointing game week for me, but other than that,
isn't that the same every week though? Like, you're not used to it now, right?
At the moment, although it looked like it was going well for 3/4 of an hour.
Have you had a green arrow yet?
Yeah, I had a green arrow a couple of weeks ago, but it looks like it's going to be followed up by 2 reds.
Just checking if you know what it feels like to get a green arrow.
Yeah, well, I was sat at like 700k 3 weeks ago, and then
now what are you 650?
Not too far off. I'm
just gonna carry on with this until as far as I can take it, because last season you were battering me.
My live rank at the moment is 500k.
Okay.
520.
But it's only 475k behind me. That's fine.
But we're what, half time of Palace versus Brighton. I've gone for Guaita in goal, so my clean sheet is still intact, and I know a lot of people had not Davinson Sanchez, Robert Sanchez in goal.
When that penalty was taken, I was like, please save the penalty.
No, that would have just killed my rank. Going with Guaita. Hopefully he can keep hold of that clean sheet and maybe make some saves and pick up some bonus as well. I'll just take the clean sheet though.
People will be listening to this and already know what's happened. So
he's got the clean sheet, and and I'm sitting here on 48 points, not 42.
All right, let's go through the agenda, what we're doing today. So first of all, we're going to talk about how our game weeks have gone so far. You've had a little bit of a preview from Rob. We'll talk about how we've both done. We've got a bit of a bumper show for you. So we've got our usual kind of structure, but it looks like it's going to be quite detailed tonight. So first, we're going to be going through our ones to watch, our 2 players that we've picked, one each that we really liked from game week 5 that we think will do well. Really liked from game week 6 and we think will do well for the following few weeks. We'll then look at our 2 hot topics. The first one chosen by the Twitter public, and that was big at the back. For those that didn't spot it, go and look at the emoji that I used. I was pretty proud of that myself.
The emoji. Is that
emoji?
Is that the posh way
of
saying
emoji?
Yeah.
Emoji.
The emoji.
Go and have a look at it. Go and have a look at the emoji that I use. I was like, yeah, this is quite good. And then the one that we have chosen is fixture ticker. So a lot of people are looking at wildcard for game week 8, possibly game week 7. Some want to hold it back for game week 14 or beyond. We're going to have a look and see when is the best time, based purely on fixtures, to use the wildcard. We'll then briefly talk about our initial plans for game week 6. 7 game week 7. We're done game week 6.
Yeah, we've done. Let's get that out of the window.
Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at our teams then, Rob, where we're at so far.
Well, let's do mine quick, because let's just get it over and done with. Guaita obviously still playing at the moment. 1 point from Trent. I could actually see that coming with how Liverpool have defended. Someone was going to come at them, and it happened to be Brentford. Last year it was Leeds that did it in game week 1, wasn't it? So and Brentford they've really impressed me. On when was it? Friday night. A friend of mine done a accumulator and he'd stuck Liverpool in there, and I was just like, "You're not getting any value." I think I fancied Brentford to maybe get something out of it. Wasn't expecting a free thriller, but yeah, they seem like how Leeds were last year, but a bit more organised, not as gung
at the
ho.
back, definitely.
But they're very fluid with how they move the ball forward, and the fullbacks get well up the pitch and they press high. I think, there'll be other teams that score 3 or 4 against them, but I can't see them failing to score against many teams. I think there's maybe only one defence in the league, and we'll come to that later, that might be able to keep them out. Luke Shaw, blank, well, like full on 0. He got a yellow card as well as being hauled off early with an injury. So there's a bit of a problem there with him. Soufal, 2-pointer. Traore was dropped, and the moment he drops, you know he's going to come on, and you just hope that he comes on and does something. So nothing from him. Gray picked up another return, which was good. Salah did what Salah does. Benrahma, nothing much to report there. Sarr, I made a good transfer at least. Gilmore to Sarr, that worked out. Antonio doing Antonio things, and Ronaldo not doing Ronaldo things as my captain. So yeah, sitting currently with Gaeta's 1 point at the moment on 42 points. So hopefully he can hold out for the next 3/4 of an hour and bump that up a bit. Because sitting at 520k, before the start of the game week, I was really I thought my team was one of the stronger teams that I'd seen for the game week. It was just turned out a bit piss poor, really. Main problems now. It's Luke Shaw, as well as the Liverpool v City fixture with Salah and Trent.
I'm glad you didn't say Benrahma's a problem, because I'm going to talk about him in a second.
He's not a problem yet. He's not a major problem.
He's not a problem, trust me.
He's not a problem yet.
He's not a problem at all.
It's going to take a bit of patching up, I think, around my team to try and, if I don't want to press the wild card, I almost did last night when I saw that Rudiger was going up, knowing that Shaw will probably go down at some point this week. And I had like 0.1 sitting there ready to make that move. I held off on it, knowing that like later on in the week I could have even more problems. So I'm just gonna sort of just try and relax and take some time over it, whether I'm going to wildcard or not, because as we'll come to in a bit, I'm not sure now's the time if I don't need to.
Okay. Yep.
How have you got on?
Let's look at my team then. Yeah, so was on 49 points, or am on 49 points, I should say, plus Sanchez. So currently it's 50 points. I'll probably end up getting one more point out of him, so 51, which at the moment is a red arrow. After yesterday, I was sitting at 17k, so a small green arrow. At the moment 27k, a red arrow from 19k to 27k. And as I'll go through the team in a second, but international breaks coming up, and I want to do a bit about how our strategies are going so far, because I put some stuff out earlier on in the week on our Twitter. So if you didn't have a look, have a look at it, which is really interesting, about the ownership in the top 100k. And I have, out of the top 11, I have 10 out of 11, and I have Rafinha, who's 12th in my team. So interesting thing is, I'm not plummeting, but I'm also not moving up. so it's about working out what you kind of do from there. But yeah, we'll talk about that more in I think during the international break. We'll do a bit of a section on there and work out what we can do to get around it. In terms of my team for this week, so I had Sanchez in goal, is currently playing, Livramento, Shaw, TAA, Ben Rama. Now Ben Rama was man of the match on Saturday. He was outstanding. I watched the game. He was making loads of spaces in the movements, had quite a few shots, should have scored. Melier had a fantastic game, other than, he made a couple of errors, but outside of that, made some really good saves. One from Ben Rama that was sneaking into the corner. I really don't see him as a problem. He will get returns. This team, this West Ham team, I'm so fucking proud of them. Like, this is a completely different team from 18 months ago. I read a stat the other day. In David Moyes' first spell at West Ham, when we were shit, we lost 27 points from winning positions. Now we have, from winning positions, we lost 27 points. Now we have won 24 points from losing positions, which just goes to say the mentality that we've got in this side. So we can go 1-0 down, but we'll come back up. And we never used to have that. And Ben Rama has really solidified himself in this side. He was workhorse, closely followed by Bowen, played fantastic. So if you've got any West Ham players, don't sell them. They will get you points.
The reason I say yet is just for the next 4 game weeks, I think it's okay to have him and Antonio, but then that period from 11 to 15, like, you played Liverpool, City and Chelsea, and I think you could, I think Antonio's fixture proof. I don't think Ben Rama's fixture proof. So, but that's something to think about at game week 11. You play Villa in game week 10. Game week 11, you've got Liverpool at home, but it's still Liverpool. And then you've got Wolves, who, like, it would be interesting to see what, after the good result yesterday away at Southampton, what that does for them. And Raul, like we spoke a couple of weeks ago about Raul Jimenez and whether we'd be interested in him. I think both of us agreed we want to see him score a goal, and then once he scores a goal, we'd come back and look at it. And well, yesterday he did. We're not going to look at it this week, but maybe over the international break we can sort of have a look at how he's performing, because then they have still got this nice fixture run until around game week 15. Wolves have.
We'll see what things are like closer to the time, but we haven't got a bad fixture run of like team after team. It's one good, one bad, one good, one bad. So Liverpool at home, hard fixture. Wolves away, not a difficult fixture, not an easy fixture, not difficult.
I wouldn't say at the moment. I would say it's like, for my FDRs, it's a 19, which is like, it's an easy fixture. Wolves away.
So it's not a difficult fixture, right? And then you've got Man City away, difficult fixture. Brighton at home, not a difficult fixture, but not an easy fixture. And then Chelsea at home, difficult. Burnley away, not difficult. Arsenal away, not difficult. And then we go on a sea of green: Norwich at home, Southampton at home, Watford away, Palace away, Leeds at home. So that's why I think
that's a long way away. That sea of green.
No, of course. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I don't see why you want to move off during that time, especially if you built value in these players.
What also interests me is,
let's see what happens.
How you progress in Europe. Because you got the good result in Europe, and then you got the bad result in the league against United, but with a decent performance. Whether you then go in Europe again this week and then struggle against Brentford next weekend, could, and we've seen it in the past. I think, who was it? It was Burnley, wasn't it?
Burnley and Wolves.
But I mean, we're looking at they were two teams without the depth that you've got in the midfield area, especially. So I think it's something just to it's being aware on, and this is why I'm a bit concerned about my sort of triple up at the moment with West Ham, with Soufal, Benrahma, Antonio. I'm not sure I want 3 of them as
I
these
get that.
fixtures come thick and fast for you. But I think it's more likely Soufal that I'll be moving out than the other 2 at the moment.
I won't put you off Soufal, taking out Soufal. Rafinha. I haven't gone through the rest of my side yet.
All right, we'll
Rob.
carry on with your team.
So I've got Rafinha, Sarr, Salah, Jota, Ronaldo, and Antonio. So I made 2 transfers this week. I wasn't going to make 2 transfers. I was just going to captain Antonio. But the 2 transfers I made was Ronaldo in, Sarr in, Fernandez out, and who was the striker that took out Bamford for a -4. Which at the time I was really annoyed about. I think I messaged you. I was like, I knew I shouldn't have fucking captain Ronaldo. Why didn't I just stick to the plan? But actually, I would have got the same amount of points because I
misses a
got in Sarr.
penalty, and so he gets 0, and then
0. Yeah, I've
Sarr
worked
goes
out.
and
Yeah,
scores.
47.
Yeah, just even. Were you up a couple of points?
No, even. Dead even.
And you've moved that money now to make that Ronaldo to Lukaku nice and easy.
Yeah.
You've made.
Yeah.
At some point, you knew you were probably going to have to take a hit to move that, to rebalance that budget out into the forwards, and you've done it now.
So it's not
at
too
no
bad.
cost, really.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that is how our teams are looking at so far. We've gone on for a bit longer than we anticipated, but let's move on to our first thing that we're going to talk about, and that is we're doing eye test first. Our
ones to watch.
Ones to watch. Our ones to watch. So my one to watch is Rafinha, and Rob's, yours is was it Croydon De Bruyne, essential player that you need to have in your side?
Making a return after
the return.
How many like in total? How many episodes are we?
Oh,
there's
I
a lot.
don't know, over 60.
Yeah, there's a lot of episodes, but episode 1 we spoke about the Croydon De Bruyne, Emile Smith Rowe, and I think with Arsenal's resurgence, capped off with a brilliant performance. Yes, I mean Spurs were poor, but Arsenal were brilliant. And he was part of, like, well and truly part of it, a goal and an assist. And it could have been more. It could have been a proper haul yesterday.
But do you want to talk about why people should have him in this side, in their side, or look at him at least?
So at the moment, I mean, you look at Arsenal's fixtures, and I think there is a confidence there, and that win yesterday would have done huge things for both the players and the fans. I mean, the ground was rocking at the end, and how often have Arsenal fans been able to do the olays as the ball gets passed around after an hour in the North London derby? It hasn't happened for a while. So coming up, they've got Brighton away next, then Palace at home, Villa at home, Leicester away, and Leicester have been disappointing. Then they've got Watford at home, so they've got 5 weeks. Then they've got Liverpool away, which is tricky, but then they've got Newcastle. And I think with Smith Rowe at 5.3, you're going to get some value out of him. I think the returns will continue to come.
Yeah.
And if you're going for the later wildcard, which we'll come to talk about later, he might have built up a bit of team value for you in that time there. And I mean, even going with the early wildcard, he's a nice, cheap enabler. Like we spoke about him last season when he was 5 million, and I was saying that if he's at that price and he's starting in that position for Arsenal, then he's great value at 5.3. I think he's still great value as long as he's starting every week. Just have a really quick look at his numbers. They're not that impressive, but you've got to remember, like, for the first 4 games, Arsenal were really poor. So he's had 8 shots, 5 on target, so 62.5% on target. Shot creating actions 13, 2 goal creating actions. He's averaging 4.4 points per 90 for FPL. 1.6 shots per 90, 2.6 shot creating actions per 90. I mean, his XG and XA stats there's no point looking at, because I think it's just reflective of how poor Arsenal started the season. But like I said before, these fixtures coming up, coupled with the sort of getting 7 days off, well, 6 days off between each game, no European football to distract them. I think they can really crack on. I'm not writing them off to be finishing in the. I'm not going to say top 4, but in the top 6 at the end of the season, because it's just. I think it's all about consistency for them. If they can go in through the next 5 and pick up sort of 12 to 15 points in the next 5, they'll be right up there around the top 4. So yeah, if they can't now go to Brighton next weekend and drop points, they have to go there and produce the same performance. But yeah, I'm gonna put myself out there and back them for now. Although asked me a month ago and I laughed in your face.
Right, let's move on to my pick, and that's Rafinha. Couple of reasons, to be honest. He was in and around the game a lot, like he normally always is. He should have scored another goal, to be fair. It hit the post. Leeds' fixtures over the next few weeks. We've got Watford at home, Southampton away, Wolves at home, Norwich away. He's just such a great player to watch. Like in the summer, like I'm sure he'll move to a bigger club. Like I can see him going for at least 40 million. Like 30, 40 million minimum. Yeah, probably more. He's
Yeah, I think
such a great player.
if his output increases, he needs to. I think he needs to. Yeah, I mean, he's got 3 goals already this season. I think creatively, you could probably put that on Bamford's form.
Yeah,
like Bamford hasn't been producing up front, so like the assists, they will come as Bamford hits some form, if he hits some form.
Well, this is the thing. So his expected XA is 1.4 at the moment. He hasn't got an assist, right? And what we know is generally, you know, XA is always a lot lower than what the assists are. So we know that the XA number, you normally get a lot more assists than you do actual XA, right? On average. And I know last year Rafinha's XA was something stupid. And it didn't end up happening because Bamford wasn't finishing, as he's got 3 goals, no assists so far this season, 19 shots, 7 of which are on target, and an expected non-penalty XG of 1.8, 5.1 FPL points per 90, plays every game unless he's injured, and even if he's injured, they take him off like with 20 minutes to go. My only concern with him, my only concern with him is that he doesn't play 90 a lot of the times, but that's been over the last couple of games. But I think that's because
he's obviously carrying this injury, but Bielsa needs it with it's an injury crisis, isn't it, at Leeds? And he needs him because there's no real creativity in that team. Like I wouldn't be relying on Dan James to be creative. I think he is just it's all legs with Dan James, and Jack Harrison's been out as well, and so he needs him, and it showed why he still started him at the weekend.
Only 15% owned. Whilst he's not a differential, that's still quite lowly owned, and I'm surprised he's quite low owned, to be honest.
I think there was a lot of people scared of the flag because I think he was around the 20% mark, and that flag just sort of dropped him down a little bit. But with a lot of wildcards being used in the next couple of game weeks, I can see him flying into the sort of 25% area.
Well, so net transfers 186,000 out last week, which is mad.
Yes, that'd be 2%. That'd be 2% of the game.
Yeah,
something like that. 3% of the game. I don't even know. That's not. whoever's listening and you're good at maths, just ignore what I've just said.
Right, so those are our 2 picks for the next few game weeks. Right, let's move on to our next subject. And which one did you want to cover first?
Well, I've got them in this order, so let's go with the big at the back.
Right, so big at the back.
With the I'm trying to think of something. Let's go with the Beyonce subject.
Beyonce subject, big at the back. That's a hint for the emoji. Right. Okay. Now, when we started, normally for our topic, we normally look at player stats. I spoke to Rob earlier and I thought it'd be a good idea to look at team data for this big at the back theory, but also some player data, which I think you put together as well, Rob, haven't you?
Yep.
So we're going to have a look at the team data surrounding big at the back. Is there some logic to this? Is there some theory behind this? What does it tell us? Does it tell us that big at the back should happen? Now, when I think of big at the back, I think of big players for big teams, therefore expensive players, not necessarily playing 5 at the back. So what we've looked at is the teams that cost the most amount of money, the players for those teams that cost most amount of money, and whether or not we should be investing in them. A lot of people have been looking at Trent plus double Chelsea or double City and an additional player from one of those other teams. Some have been talking about double City, double Chelsea, and Trent. So let's have a look at this data and I guess work out what it's telling us. Is there any theory to this? Is there any substance, I guess, Rob? What is it telling us? Do you want to talk it, since you put this together, did you want to talk through it or do you want me to talk through it?
I'll talk through it. I think it's kind of, I mean, we're obviously only working off 6 game weeks of data, so there's not much there. And obviously, say Chelsea have had a lot harder fixtures to open the season with than City and Liverpool have. So, I mean, give it another 4 or 5 game weeks. I think we'll have a lot, even as City play some of the. I mean, they play Liverpool this week. Same with Liverpool as they play. I mean, both of them play United in the next 5, as well as each other. So it will kind of even it out a little bit.
Yeah. Did you want me to explain why we chose the ones that we did? Because I was the one that kind of thought about this particular graphic.
Yep. Go on. You explain.
So I'll explain that bit, and then you can go through the numbers. So what we've got on, for those that are listening on YouTube, and if you're listening to the podcast, it might be worthwhile you flicking on YouTube just to have a look at the graphic, although we will publish this because I think it's a fantastic piece of work, Rob, that you put together. So well done, mate. You've got Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool here, highlighting the amount of goals that they've conceded this season and where they rank out of the top 20 sides for the goals that they've conceded. You've got their XGC numbers as well and where they rank on XGC in the table, and the number of clean sheets, and again where they rank. We've then got the next 5 fixtures that they are playing against, the teams that they're facing, and the teams XG that they're facing, where they rank, how many goals they've scored, and you know, where does that place them in the league based on that data. So I thought this information will give us a good idea as to, you know, we know that Chelsea and City have got some really good fixtures, but how good do the numbers tell us? And which sides should we be investing in based on these numbers? The reason why we've got Liverpool in, and this was an idea by Rob that I thought was really good, is not necessarily because people are looking at going double Liverpool, but based on their numbers, is it worth coming off Trent? Oh, I know I've said a naughty word, coming off Trent. But we just thought we'd put out the numbers there just to see what the data is telling us. So Rob, yeah, take it away. Go through the numbers. What has this data taught you?
So essentially it said that Man City got like the best defense ever. Um, so goals conceded, City lead the way. They've obviously only conceded once this season so far, which is crazy. And 5 games, or 6 games, 1 goal conceded. Chelsea have only conceded twice, so they're ranked second in that. Liverpool have only conceded 4 times, so they're ranked third. Then it gets interesting with the expected goals conceded. So it's basically the accumulative. For those that don't know, it's the cumulative XG of the teams that they played against. So City lead the way with this, 2.2, ranked first by a long way. Then you've got Liverpool on 7.1, ranked 6th. And then you've got Chelsea ranked 11th out of the 20 teams in the Premier League with 7.9. To put that in comparison, Chelsea on the same expected goals conceded as Watford.
Wow.
Which
is a shock. When I saw those numbers, I was like, wow.
But then
really surprised.
You've got to think in that time, Chelsea have played City, Spurs, where they came away with conceding over 1 XG. Villa as well. Who else they played? They played several games this season where they were conceding over 1 goal in XG. So that I expect that to balance out, especially like if we get a free-flowing game between City and Liverpool this week, then you'd expect City to add maybe one goal onto theirs. Clean sheets: City first with 5, Chelsea second, and Liverpool joint second with 4 clean sheets this season. So what that tells me is that Chelsea's defence are giving away opportunities, and then either Mendy or Kepa on the occasion is making the saves, and we've seen that Mendy picks up a fair few save points through the season, or the strikers they've been playing are a bit shit. And I think,
or a combination of both.
And it will be a combination of both, because Mendy has picked up some save points this season through the Chelsea defence. And we saw this at the weekend. City, lots of people were saying that they were seeing it as a 0-0. They couldn't see Chelsea conceding. But I turned around to a couple of people and said, when was the last time City did not score 2 games in a row? After they drew 0-0 last week with Southampton. It just doesn't happen. Someone can come up and if someone wants to put in the comments when the last time was, that would be great, because it would be interesting. So that moves us on to their fixtures coming up, and we'll go through who each team is facing, and then we'll go through in detail the stats for each team. So Chelsea, Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley. So, I mean, it's almost perfect, isn't it, really? Their next 5. City have got Liverpool, Burnley, Brighton, Palace, and then United. Then Liverpool have got City, Watford, United, Brighton, West Ham. So Liverpool got the hardest run. I'd say that City's, as it stands, probably quite a way behind Chelsea's in the fixtures, like with Liverpool and United in there. But Brighton have had a good start, so their FDR is 11. That fixture rating is, so still well behind. I mean, Chelsea over the next 5 fixtures, their average fixture rating, according to my own FDRs, is 16.3, which, I mean, we don't see an average number like that until game week 12, 13 when United's fixture turn happens. So it's by far the best run of games out of anyone, and for quite a while. Now the teams they play, so I think we kind of maybe just ignore City and Liverpool with the in-depth data because of the Liverpool fixture. Although we could probably go, well, wait a minute, let's just hold off on the double City, and we could maybe look at that again for the Burnley fixture, and then jump on double City. Then we still need to see what happens with United, whether that fixture is actually like it's a fixture rating of 4. Is that too low?
Well,
I mean,
this is not necessarily to get on at game week 7, right? It
hmm.
could be a case of you get one Chelsea for game week 7, and then your wild card in game week 8 and go on to City, right? So you don't necessarily have to invest in City now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the numbers say invest in City. Like
Yeah.
from pure defensive stats, it says invest in City, and then I mean, from game week 8, they've got Burnley with their XG so far this season 6.9, 13th in the league. Goals 5, 14th in the league. Then they got Brighton with an XG of 6.4 so far, 16th in the league, and they're actually outscoring their XG with 7. I doubt that they've added 0.6 onto it tonight to level it up. 7 goals, the 9th in the league. Palace 5.8 XG. That's obviously before tonight's game. 19th in the league. And then 14th in the league. United 12.4 XG, 3rd in the league, 13 actual goals, which is 2nd in the league. So that's City coming up. So for that Burnley, for Burnley, Brighton, and Palace, I think double City. I would really, really want double City. Then Chelsea have got Southampton next, 7 XG of 7, 12th in the league, an actual 4, 16th in the league, and we've seen how they're struggling a lot without Danny Ings there. They've got a good striker in Armstrong there, but he's not that caliber. And I think Che Adams is struggling as well. Brentford 7.8 XG, 8th in the league, 8 actual, 8th in the league as well. Norwich 5.
I can see them conceding at Brentford. You know that
The way that Brentford play, I could see them conceding as well. And you've got to think that's a derby as well. It's a West London derby.
Yeah.
You'd think Brentford are going to be right up for it. I can't see Chelsea keeping a clean sheet there. Although against Norwich, 5.3 XG, 20th in the league. They've only scored twice so far this season. I think that's as nailed on a clean sheet as you're going to get.
Yep, agreed.
Then Newcastle, 7.5 XG, 9th overall, and scored 7 goals, 9th overall. But by then, probably have a Callum Wilson to deal with as well. Then finally, in the last of the next 5, Burnley, 6.9 XG, 13th in the league, with an actual of 5, which is 14th in the league. So I think we've just summarised that quite like get on a Chelsea defender, but maybe get on 2 City. And do we hold Trent? Do we not hold Trent?
Well, I think you've got some data to go through that can tell us whether or not we should. Just before we go on to that, though, I had said to you, and I think I mentioned it in the stream on Thursday, that I was looking at double Chelsea defence. Actually, this data is telling me that I should be going for double City defence instead. I was looking at going for one Chelsea defender for Southampton and then bringing in another against Brentford. But after seeing the weekend's results and seeing this data, I really think that it's for that Burnley, Brighton and Palace, it's maybe thinking for me to wildcard to get in a couple of City defenders, because I mean, Burnley, Brighton, and Palace, I can see 3 clean sheets there. Well, that's what the data's telling us anyway.
I mean, would you, with your defenders, how? I mean, you can't even go.
Cancelo and Diaz.
It's going to have to be Cancelo and Diaz, because you can't even go.
Yeah.
Oh, let's get Edison in, and because he's nailed, because he's not going to make. You're not going to get any bonus for him, because he's not making any.
Cancelo and Diaz.
He's not making any saves. He's not doing anything. Whilst at least Diaz picks up some BPS for passing and tackles and heading and stuff like that, and you've got that slight threat of attacking as well.
If I can fit in 2 City defenders, it will be Cancelo and Diaz. Cancelo will be number 1 pick. Diaz will be number 2 pick. If I can't, then it will be at least Cancelo. That's for sure. That's 100% sure.
Is this when you go Cancelo and Diaz and I go Diaz and Stones again, and I catch up?
Yeah, maybe.
Because Laporte, I don't know what the current standing is, but I know he's flagged on my UCL. So yeah, does Stones do what he did last season, take his chance and get himself nailed in the side? I'm not sure. We shall see. But yeah, I'm generally in agreement with you. Like, I'd rather just get the one Chelsea for this week against Southampton, one Chelsea defender, and then sort of steam into that City defence. Probably more likely just to try and maybe stick with going triple Chelsea, but looking at one of the other players we looked at last week in Mount or Havertz or Werner or Kovacic, or one of the players in that midfield to accompany Lukaku. But you've got to try and find who's nailed and who's going to give you the best value for money, because like Timo Werner isn't going to give you the best value for money. I saw a meme today that in the last 7 months, Timo Werner has scored as many goals in the Premier League as Alisson.
Jesus. 1. That's mad, isn't it?
But yeah, so maybe looking at going one Chelsea defender, one Chelsea midfielder, and Lukaku, and then doubling up on the City defence and forgetting about City midfield or attack, because it's just so unpredictable. Unless you go for De Bruyne. It's like De Bruyne's probably the only nailed out of all of them, and we could see him get some rest, depending on how the Champions League starts to unfold for them in that group with PSG. So yeah, lots to think about elsewhere, but yeah, definitely think double City defence. It's the numbers are just screaming for it.
Right. Is there any other stats that you've got that you want to talk through?
Yeah. So I mean, it's basically just to back up kind of what we've spoken about. And I thought it would be good just to have a look at how the top 10 of each position, how they score and what value they hold. So, I mean, goalkeepers, the top 10 goalkeepers, the average score is 28, defenders 35, midfielders 38, forwards 31. But then the value, so it's points scored tied in with their price. So the higher the amount, the most value for money you're getting. Goalkeepers 35, defenders 45, midfielders 35, forwards 26.
So basically, it's saying the value is with the defenders this season so far.
so far this season, the value's there in the defenders. I mean,
but is it there with the high defenders, the expensive defenders? So does the theory where everyone's saying big at the back, double City, double Chelsea, whatever it might be, going with 4 premium defenders, does this data say that it's worth doing that?
So the best value at the moment in out of all of these positions, the top 10 point scorers in these positions is 54.5, which is João Cancelo, who we've literally just mentioned. Alonso's up there, 47.5. Diaz, 48.3. I mean, anything in the high, like mid to high 40s and over, like you're looking at some really, really good value. Rudiger, 43.6. Trent, 33.9. Which tells me at the moment I shouldn't be paying 7.6 million for him. I should be paying probably closer to 7 million for him. This is why I'm thinking, if Robertson starts returning, maybe that's a nice move to make over, but it might have to wait until the wildcard happens. Like if we just have a touch on quickly, midfielder's best value midfielder out of the high scorers, Abdoulaye Doucouré, 47.5, so same as Marcos Alonso in value. Bimrama, 46.4. Again, same sort of similar numbers as Alonso. Forwards, there's just no value whatsoever apart from Antonio at 42.7. The rest of the forwards is just seriously at the moment not producing the sort of returns you'd want from them. I mean, look at Jamie Vardy's the second highest point scorer out of the forwards with 40 points so far, but he's priced at 10.4 million, and you're paying sort of 2.5 million less and getting 7 extra points from Antonio, which it tells the story. But for those that are watching on the YouTube, you can see that, especially out of the top 6, 7, 8 of the top 10 point scorers out of the defenders so far, a decent value for money from their FPL output. So yeah, it makes sense.
What we'll do is we'll stick out all these tweets, all these graphics in a tweet out tomorrow, so that if you are listening to the audio and you want to follow along, you can have a look at these graphics to do so.
Yeah,
if you're not watching on
I mean,
YouTube.
Those that are part of my mini league and have my planner, you'll have all of this information sitting in your planner. So if those that haven't got a copy of it want a copy, I think I'm now at a stage where I'm not so busy and I could probably do a copy that's got all of these stats and data in there. It'd just be a small donation towards my beer fund for it. So yeah, we'll just let me know if you want just access to some of this information that's there.
Cool. Thank you very much for this, Rob. You put a lot of effort into it. So yeah, I guess in answer to the question that we got asked on Twitter, which is the big at the back, I guess the answer is yes.
Yeah, like you said, it might not necessarily
being
mean
the only
might not necessarily
Brentford
mean
being the only anomaly, right?
Yeah, going 5 in the back. It might mean just going like you're generally going to be starting with 4 at the back every week if you're holding Trent, because then you're going to go Trent, 1 Chelsea, so maybe an Alonso. He looks like he's nailed, and his numbers backed him up last week when we spoke about the Chelsea defenders, and then Cancelo and Diaz. And I could see if I really like the idea of having those 4. The only concern for me is Trent, knowing that Liverpool's fixtures aren't great. Sort of every other week, it's one of those fixtures where if you owned a Van Dijk, you'd maybe think about benching because that clean sheet guarantee isn't there. And we saw against Brentford that they just haven't got that partnership in there with him. It's not like a couple of seasons ago when him and Gomez had formed this great partnership, and they looked so solid. They don't look that solid at the back, and people are exploiting the weaknesses of Trent as a defender to make space down the left, and where they've generally got the weaker centre half as well down that side. So yeah, it's something just to keep an eye on. But I'm really tempted this week just to go, fuck it, Trent to Alonso, and just
Interesting.
just be done with it, and like just think that frees up another couple of million to then go, like you can go Soufal and Shaw up to Diaz and Cancelo, like quite easily then.
Very interesting. Right, let's look at fixtures. People are looking at wildcarding game week 8. Some are doing it in game week 7. What does the data tell us? Is wildcarding in 8 good for a fixture run, or is it better going in 12 or potentially 14? We thought we'd have a look to see when these fixture runs are happening, the teams that have the best fixtures during this fixture run, and whether or not it's easy, difficult to get those teams in. So, Rob, you're basically running the show tonight with these graphics. So you might as well carry on, mate, because you're doing a sterling job. What has this told you? When is the best time to wildcard? And just bear in mind, people, we're talking purely from a fixtures point of view. When is a good time to get on and off teams?
So, I mean, just say how we worked out each fixture run and how we've picked out these teams. So, I've just taken. I mean, I talked about game week 12 in pre-season. You spoke about game week 14 last week, and then obviously a lot of people are now thinking about game week. This game week, obviously with the build-up of injuries, like Shaw, I think, is capped it for a lot of people, as well as targeting this fixture run for Chelsea, beginning with a Southampton fixture in game week 7. So I've basically taken an average of fixture difficulty rating for the 5 game weeks from 7 to 11, 12 to 16, and 14 to 18, and just picked out the top 8 teams. Like generally, you'd probably be looking at, like if you were wildcarding, you'd probably be looking at having players only from these like 6 to 8 teams, really, wouldn't you? To really target these fixture runs. So we start off with this fixture run in 7, which all of these 8 teams, apart from Brighton, and then you'd argue that the Arsenal fixture probably isn't an 18 anymore, but that's just what the stats have said from the start of the season when Arsenal were very poor. It starts off fairly tough for everyone, but then like game week 8, 9, 10, 11, it all finishes quite well, but they all face one of the big top, let's say the top 4, apart from Arsenal, over the next 5 game weeks. So it just, I think it makes it less approachable, especially like we've spoken about City, but I think if I was wildcarding, I'd really want to be able to pile into all 8 of these teams or 6 teams, and I don't think I can with like Brentford having West Ham, Chelsea, Leicester in their next 5. Brighton got Arsenal, City, Liverpool in the next 5. Chelsea, we know, have got the exceptional fixtures. Leicester, Palace, United, Arsenal, Leeds in the next 5. Liverpool, City, and United, and West Ham in the next 5. They, like all of the teams that you'd really want to load up on, they've got games where you'd be wanting to, like, you'd be looking at maybe benching, although you could navigate by doing a bit of a hokey cokey, so move someone out and bring someone in for them and then bring them back the following week when that fixture's out the way. So I looked at game week 12 pre-season. It looked like the best one, but I think it might have been slightly leaning towards a bias with as a United fan, and knowing that that Watford fixture would be a good one to target. But then the Chelsea and Arsenal fixtures afterwards kind of make it less appealing on them. Chelsea is still up there with their fixture run, but it's mainly boosted by the Watford fixture, where they have between 12 and 16. They've got Leicester, United, Watford, West Ham, and Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool, one of the stronger ones, but they've got Arsenal, Everton, which, I mean, it doesn't matter what Everton, how Everton are playing, that fixture, they show up. So it's probably, I've got it rated as a 5. It's probably more of a 2 for Liverpool, because it is it's notoriously a tough fixture for them, the Merseyside derby. And then it's just the strength of the other teams in that group. You've got Newcastle in there. Who would I want from Newcastle apart from ASM? Probably no one. Burnley. Who would I want from Burnley? Probably no one really. Palace, you could argue like Zaha, Gallagher, but probably not. By that time, they might have gone become like high owned and gone up a little bit in like 0.2, 0.3 in price, and I think it might be a bit too much for them.
Yep.
So it's kind of putting me off game week 12 as a wild card. So that brings us to 14, and apart from the fixtures in game week 14, the rest of them, like every single, I mean, even in 14, so out of those, you got Villa, Brentford, Chelsea, Everton, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, West Ham. They're all teams that have got players that are, as you would say, fixture proof, that you'd happily play. Everton and Liverpool play in game week 14. Villa have got City in game week 14. United play Arsenal in game week 14. So they're the sort of
So
the
what about
concerning
15
fixtures.
then, Rob?
But then 15,
What about
for all of them apart from
Rob.
West Ham.
Rob, what about going in 15 rather than 14 then?
This is, I mean, looking at it, 15 might be the option. I think that 12 out of these 3, 12 is the weakest wildcard point. I think 8 is the second strongest. 15 is the strongest. But I think it all depends on the individual and the shape of your teams. Like those that didn't take a hit last week and are still sitting there with Ayling, Bamford, and now Shaw as well, might need to. They're either going to have to take a hit this week or they're going to have to wildcard.
Yeah.
But that game week 15, Villa play Leicester, Brentford play Leeds, which, I mean, that could be absolute goal fest, couldn't it? Those two going at each other. Chelsea play West Ham, Everton play Arsenal, Liverpool play Wolves, City play Watford, United play Palace, and then obviously West Ham, and we've just said West Ham play Chelsea. And then there's nice rotation points all the way through.
Rob, Sorry, Rob, to be the bearer of bad news, my friend, but Brighton have scored in the 95th minute.
Oh. My stream's still behind, and it's just gone in
Sorry,
just now. Oh,
who scored?
more pain.
Or is it?
95th
95th
minute, clean sheet, wipeout.
Wipe out. Yeah.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
At least, to be
Gaeta's gone from
fair,
an 8-pointer.
to be fair,
It was
at least
before that went in. It was a green arrow. I was up to
just quickly.
424k.
You had Guaita and Sanchez, didn't you? And you were debating who to start out of the two, and you started with Guaita instead of Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
So at least it didn't really matter either way.
No. But that is.
So that's a benefit at least.
That's annoying. So anyway, back to game week 14 to 18. There's not many, like in that 7 to 11 period where everyone of those sort of top teams with their average ratings, they play one of the top teams. In that 14 to 18 period, the only bad fixtures, Villa have got City and Liverpool, but then 17, 18 are good for them, Norwich, Burnley. West Ham played Chelsea and Arsenal in that time, but then United play Arsenal, Liverpool play Everton. Everton, they've got Liverpool and Chelsea, but then they've got Palace and Leicester fixtures. Chelsea have only got West Ham as a tough fixture. And then all of them have a nice fixtures in game week 18. Like, I think the only problem with game week 18 is like who you'd bench in it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a tough ask to. I mean, lots of people held last year till game week 16 because of the double game week for Liverpool last year for the club. Was it the Club World Cup?
Yep.
Which we will get a double game week in a similar period this season for Chelsea. I think as long as they go out in the League Cup, so it could be worth thinking about holding on again. But we'll know well in advance whether that's going to happen. So at the moment, I'm leaning towards either a game week 8 or a game week 14/15 wildcard. Depending, okay. I think I'm going to have to spend some time thinking about what I want to do to move around with my team, because it's looking tricky for me to get there without taking too many hits with the City defenders and the Chelsea triple up as well.
The problem I've got is I wasn't looking at wildcarding earlier on in the week. I wasn't looking at wildcarding in 8, and I was thinking about holding it back. The problem is, if we want Lukaku and we want a Chelsea defender and we want 2 City defenders, then really we need a wildcard. You know, I'm looking at my side and I'm going, okay, I've got Shaw. I can do, let's say, Alonso. Shaw to Alonso. Okay, so that's one move. Then and I can hold off to game week 8 and do Lukaku in for Ronaldo, right? Then how am I going to get my City defenders? I need to take a hit. Don't want to take a hit for defenders. And then I've got Sarr, who I only wanted for 2 weeks because I don't see much. You know, I don't see much upside from game week 9 onwards. So then I have to, if I want him out, I need to save on somewhere. But then I look at my side and overall I'm making only 5 changes. Is it worth doing 5 changes for a wild card?
Exactly.
So that's the tough thing, right? You can take hits to get these players in, but then is it worth it to take a hit to get these players in, even though you know that they're worth bringing in? I don't know. This is the problem.
I mean, there was an interesting tweet put out by Dave, is it FPL Seagull, saying that at what point over sort of the course of the next 3 or 4 game weeks, how many hits, if I'm booking in hits effectively to get my team into the state I want it to be, at which point do I wildcard?
Yeah.
And he put out a little vote, and it was -12. Sort of over the next 3 or 4 game weeks, you were taking hit and then hit and then hit. It would be, yeah, you should be taking the using your wild card. Can you get the team you want by game week 9 with a couple of consecutive -4s? If you can,
Yeah,
it might
probably.
be a case of holding the wild card, and that's what I'm playing around with my team, and why I didn't rush the move last night to see if I can do that. It might mean though having to go to Christensen rather than Rudiger now, which I think I'm more confident on him being nailed now than I was 7 days ago. So yeah, it's I'm personally really want to wildcard in that 14-15, or in 12-13. Even though I've said that it's slightly the weakest, but I could set up my wildcard in a way that I can use 13-14 to just have a couple of punty picks in 13-14, and then have the team that I'd wildcarded 2 and 15 sitting there in 15.
Yeah,
It'll just take a bit of planning, but yeah, you're planning 2 game weeks.
You know something. You know something between now and game week 15 is going to happen to fuck it up, and neither of us are going to end up like wildcarding in the weeks that we're saying we're going to wildcard.
We'll get to
it's just the way it is, right?
We'll get to game week 11, and yeah, we'll be wildcarding.
Yeah.
Or we'll get to game week 9 and we'll be wildcarding, which at the moment, like with the way that injuries have happened, suspensions have happened, it seemed to start snowballing. Where we had Antonio, then Bamford, Ayling, Rafinha, which in the end Rafinha everyone got away with, and then Luke Shaw. And yeah, I mean, I keep saying to myself, why was I a bit of a sheep with Luke Shaw when pre-season I said I don't think the value's
you did.
there.
You did say that.
I could have saved. I thought, I'll go with Wan-Bissaka, save 0.5, and see how we go. And I saw that Luke Shaw was 55% owned, panicked, and moved everything around. But yeah, it's waste of time looking back at it now. We're 6 game weeks on, and I have got a green arrow in the end. So
nice, well done.
Yeah,
Let me have a look. Game week finished now, isn't
it?
it?
Oh no, it isn't a green arrow. It's a red arrow. It briefly went to a green arrow. I think
so. I'm on a red arrow. 28,000 is my rank. 28,000. Right. Okay. I thank you for that, Rob. You put in a lot of effort for all our topics tonight, so I appreciate all your work you put in. Okay, let's talk about quickly for a couple of minutes what our initial plans are for this game week. What we're doing.
Trying not to wildcard.
Yeah, transferring. Trying not to wildcard. Any initial thoughts?
At the moment, I think I might do. It might just be a Shaw to Christensen. Really boring. I could be a bit more adventurous and try and move some other players around, but that would mean a hit. I could do TAA down to Alonso, like I spoke about earlier, which is tempting. At the moment, it's Shaw to Christensen. So yeah, subject to change, and then reassess again, and then it might be TAA to. That might be then next week. TAA and Sufal, like take a -4, and Diaz and Cancelo. And if
Interesting.
City keep a clean sheet, it's perfect, isn't it? And like, when we looked at that fixture against Burnley, it's the perfect opportunity to take a hit and bring in 2 City defenders. Where, like, yeah, when else would you do it, kind of thing.
I mean, I have to admire your bravery, mate. Coming off TAA, that's definitely not something that I will be doing. That's for sure.
I mean, it would be hard, but it does free up a bit of money. And then once I've moved Ronaldo down to Lukaku, I can think about bringing TAA back in. I just think for the next 5, I'd only want one of TAA and Salah. And I can't drop Salah.
Yeah,
I
fair
think
enough.
TAA. I think in the next 5, Salah outscores TAA. So
Yeah.
But that's just my initial thought right now. I mean, it's changing like constantly at the moment. Like 1 minute I'm about to hit the wildcard button, the next I'm not. So
For captain, Ronaldo.
for next week, yeah, it'll be Ronaldo. Yeah, I will have to, because he's going to be up. Like, Lukaku's going to be the big captain for the week. There'll be a lot of people going from Ronaldo to Lukaku. I'm scared shitless of Lukaku next week.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough watch. That Chelsea Southampton game. But yeah, I don't feel like I can take him out before home fixture against Everton. And then next week, I'll make the move from Ronaldo down to Lukaku. I mean, next week could be a -8.
Similar for me. So my moves that I'm looking at this week, I don't think I'll be taking a hit. I'll be doing Shaw or Ayling. I've got 1.4 in the bank, so it'll be Shaw or Ayling, depending on Shaw's injury news, to a Chelsea defender. And then next week, I'll be probably taking a -4, bringing in Ronaldo to Lukaku, and then the other defender that I don't bring in to Cancelo. And I think I can afford that, although I haven't checked 100%, to be fair. Let me just double check it. So this week I would be doing, let's say I do Shaw. Let's see, here we go, some live data. So if I do Ayling and Shaw and Ronaldo out to Lukaku, say I'll go Rudiger and Cancelo. Sorry, this is really boring for those listening on there. Which leaves me 12.4. Yeah, I can afford it. And then I can bring in Lukaku. I've got more than enough money. So that's the kind of plan. Free transfer this week. And it'll probably be Ronaldo captain, although I need to look into the Brentford defensive numbers over the last few game weeks. And maybe I'll go Antonio. I don't know. It does depend on if we start Antonio midweek as well, because I know we're playing in Europe and we're playing at home. And although Antonio didn't play in the last European fixture, he might want to play at home under the lights in Europe. So there's a possibility that Antonio starts on Thursday, in which case I won't be captaining him for sure.
He's due a hamstring injury. He played twice in 4 days.
Yeah.
And the hammies are going to go. It's tricky at the moment. especially with lots of. I mean, but there's knowing though that there's lots of people that have already wildcarded and they're in these dilemmas as well. Having the backup of that wildcard sitting there is kind of like a little comfort blanket for it all. So, like if it does all go tits up, then you can just hit it and get it done early, but then always have that target of that that sort of 14, 15 fixture swing to try and then plan towards it there.
That's it.
Cool. Should we have a quick look at
Right.
the mini league table?
Yeah, go for it.
I thought I'll just cut in and just introduce it then. So we've got a new leader in the mini league. She's actually the top of my mini league as well. But let's start from the bottom. I can't even read his name. So in 10th, BS-ism on 450 points in 10th place. We've got James Twiddy, guy from Horsham, 452 points. Joseph Sumsota also in 452. Then joint 6th, we've got Paul Welsh and Ryan Campbell on 453. This Struick, who was 2nd last week, down to 5th, 454. Rich Kirk, still in 4th, 455. Dara Cunningham in 3rd. Lewis Chambers in 2nd, 457 points. But then with a huge game week, this isn't even the final score, 74 points.
Wow.
Up to 473 points total is Deirdre Kane and Citizen Kane. So yeah, congratulations Deirdre for a great game week. Yeah, she went top of the big FPL mini league as well. So yeah, cracking game week that. 74 points. I'm not sure if she had any players playing in the Palace Brighton game. She could have had Gallagher or Morpay and added a few points onto that.
Right. What else we got coming up? That's it.
That's it. You're off travelling. You're not going in the woods now, are you? You're going
I'm going to Turkey.
You're going to the land of the Thanksgiving bird.
Yep. Going to Turkey tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon, and then I'll be back next Tuesday. So in my absence, we have the wonderful, amazing James Johnson joining us. Right?
Yep, he's gonna come and probably laugh at me about Saturday, the events of Saturday lunchtime.
He's a Villa fan, isn't he?
Yeah, and then he'll be able to. I don't know how I'm doing and you're doing in the free hit challenge this week, but he'll be picking your team, and I managed to claw it back last time, so I might, if I've won from last week, I might have.
Do you know what? The only thing that I know about the free hit challenge is you put in Begovic, and you were like, "Why the fuck did you not put in Begovic, Sham? He's like going to start against Everton, and he didn't start.
No.
And you didn't have a backup keeper,
No. So
and I had Jose Sarr.
Oh yeah,
for a 14-pointer.
Yeah, I think actually, I think you've won. I think you've that alone. I think you won. So,
but I had double Liverpool defense. So I don't know if I did win. I think it's very, very close. Very, very close. But all will be revealed on Thursday.
Yeah.
Right. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. We will put out the stats that Rob kindly made for the podcast. We'll put it out on tomorrow morning. So by the time that you listen to this, hopefully you will be able to see it. For anyone that's new, you can follow us on Twitter at FPL_Happy Hour. We're also on a number of podcasts, including Spotify and Apple Music. Our YouTube channel is FPL Happy Hour. Please like, subscribe, and share, and all your retweets are really appreciated. Rob will be streaming live on Thursday at 9:30 with James, and then recording on Monday to come out on Tuesday next week. So until then, take care.
Cheers, guys.